What if Dooku trained Anakin on Serenno through the Clone Wars? That's our story for today. Hope you guys enjoy, and we're going to be doing a giveaway of Star Wars The Living Force, the newest novel that was just dropped all about the Jedi Council around the time of The Phantom Menace. So if you want to be entered in the giveaway, stick around to the end of the video, and let's get right into it. Our story begins on Coruscant as the Jedi are returning to the temple after the funeral of Qui-Gon Jinn. Yoda and the Council were extremely discouraged by everything that has played out in recent days, and they were unfortunately taking all of the wrong lessons from it. With Qui-Gon dead, the Jedi got together in the Council with Obi-Wan in the center, as Obi-Wan said that he promised Qui-Gon that he would train Anakin. But Windu spoke up, saying that they cannot allow this. The return of the Sith has been dealt with, and the boy is dangerous, so Anakin cannot be allowed into the Order. Obi-Wan stood his ground, and he began to argue for a while, but it was clear that the Council has made up its mind. So Obi-Wan asked what was going to happen to Anakin now, and Yoda said that his next step in his young life is already in motion. He will be sent out into the agricultural corps of the Jedi Order, a distant sect of the Order that basically helps maintain planets that need help. These Jedi don't use lightsabers nor the Force, they just help people who need it across the galaxy. It was the best way for the Jedi to get rid of Anakin, without just tossing him back into slavery. Obi-Wan said that he wanted to go say goodbye, but Yoda said that the ship was taking off momentarily. It would be too late. Obi-Wan was feeling broken and betrayed by the Order as he left the Council chambers, unsure of what to do. Inside of a transport ship, the young Anakin Skywalker was wiping away tears as he gave one final look to the temple. Why did the Jedi despise him so much? He just didn't understand. For all of his life, Anakin thought of the Jedi as ancient heroes that kept the galaxy safe, but he saw now that they were just like the rest of the rich elites that had a blind eye to slavery in the Outer Rim. But as Anakin looked to the ground, he saw a speeder land, and a bearded man got out of it. Former Jedi Master Dooku, now Count of Serenno, skipped Qui-Gon's funeral and instead went to meet with his master, Darth Sidious. In this meeting, Master Yaddle unfortunately showed up, and Dooku had to discard of her. And now he was back at the temple, but as he got out of his speeder, Dooku felt something. It was as if the Force were whispering to him, and Dooku turned around to see a boy staring at him. The ramp to the ship was still open, and Dooku accepted this call from the Force, boarding the ship, asking the young boy who he was. Anakin said his name, then told Dooku everything that happened with Qui-Gon and the Jedi Council. Dooku felt into the Force, and he could feel that this boy was powerful, and so Dooku decided that perhaps he could still honor Qui-Gon by making sure that this boy is trained, but not as a Jedi. So he would secretly take Anakin away, bringing the boy to Serenno and assuring him that his destiny does not lie with the corrupt Jedi and Republic. Instead, Dooku said he will train him to reach his full potential, and that was all that Dooku said for now, as they landed on Serenno to begin Anakin's new life. The first few months would see Anakin spending a lot of time away from Dooku, and instead with the many servants that Dooku hired to basically live in this castle and help look after Anakin. Dooku was very busy trying to balance his new duties as apprentice to Sidious with his duties as the Count of Serenno. And Dooku would tell Sidious that he took Anakin away from the Jedi, and Sidious would ask Dooku to test Anakin's midichlorian count, as he could someday be a strong Sith Lord if he is powerful enough. This is when Dooku began to realize that he may not be in the long-term plans for Sidious. It was obvious that he was needed to help create the Clone Wars, but now Dooku wondered, what about after? Would Sidious eventually want a younger apprentice? It was a question for later, but Dooku would decide to test Anakin, and he would be completely shocked by the results. Anakin's M count was higher than Yoda himself, and now Dooku knew for certain that if Sidious found this out, he would certainly insert Anakin into his plans. So instead, Dooku would fly to the planet Umbara, where a Jedi Knight was conducting negotiations with the people, and Dooku would kill her, then test her blood instead. Her M count was average, and Dooku would present this count to Sidious, saying that it was Anakin's. Sidious was of course now unimpressed with Anakin, and he would just let him be Dooku's assassin project. The training for Dooku and Anakin would truly begin around a year after being brought here. Dooku wanted Anakin to be a bit angry for Dooku at taking so long, and so when the training began, Dooku tricked Anakin into using this anger. He would set up training droids with stun blasts and not give Anakin a weapon, so he could either dodge the blasts, use the Force on the droids, or be knocked out. This would go on for months, then a year, with other exercises for agility and focus included as well, until Anakin was able to handle the droids with his eyes closed and minimal movements. At just 12 years old, his agility and focus were becoming very strong, and as the two of them trained together, they started to form an unexpected bond. Anakin never had any sort of father figure in his life, and it was only natural that he would begin to think of Dooku like this, and Dooku did nothing to stop it. He truly began to think of Anakin as a sort of adopted son, and this only helped Anakin as he continued to grow. During this training, Dooku would eventually bring Anakin to Ilum, and he would be granted a purple lightsaber crystal. Dooku took Anakin here to see if the Force would actually grant Anakin a crystal, because only light side users could connect with the planet, and to Dooku's surprise, Anakin succeeded, and Dooku began to wonder if he and Anakin were someday able to overthrow Sidious. Did it have to be completely in the dark side? Part of him wanted to still embrace some of the light. And around age 15, Anakin was not only training in the Force and with lightsaber combat, but he began shadowing Dooku politically, as he began his meetings to keep Serenno prosperous, while also starting the Separatist Alliance. Anakin didn't love the political side of things, but he enjoyed learning as much as he could, and so he paid attention to how Dooku carried himself through all of this. Anakin would don a cape similar to Dooku's, as their adopted father-son relationship only continued to grow up until it was time to truly begin the Separatist Alliance. Through the years, Anakin had truly committed himself to training and learning with Dooku. He'd spent countless hours in the Serenno forest, taking on extremely modified droids, modified by Anakin himself, using his elite mechanical abilities, and through the years, Anakin would move all the way up to taking on 10 highly upgraded Magna Guards at one time. Dooku would watch, and then he would spar Anakin at the end, when he was most exhausted, so Anakin would have to learn to push past his own physical limits. He was becoming super powerful, both physically and mentally, as Dooku would take Anakin to various planets to show him how they suffer under the Republic. From Braca to Darda to Faline, Anakin would see how the people are being failed by the Senate and the Jedi that swore to protect them, and this would make Anakin angry. How could the Jedi, the Senate, the Republic do this to them? And Anakin would see why Dooku wanted to overthrow the Republic and put a new system into place. His system. And once Dooku was fully convinced that Anakin was fully on board, he would reveal the truth. Chancellor Palpatine is the most corrupt of them all, and he is helping Dooku to create a war to tear down the Republic. But Dooku admitted now that Palpatine cannot be trusted. He told Anakin that when he first accepted the role with Palpatine, things were different. He thought Palpatine truly wanted to help the galaxy, but he sees now that Palpatine is beyond evil, and he will tear down the galaxy if it means that he can have power. And Dooku would admit to Anakin that without him helping Dooku stay in the light a bit, he very well may have followed Palpatine down this terrible dark side path. But Dooku still did want what was best for the galaxy, and so he told Anakin that once the war has begun, they will make a plan to take down Palpatine when the opportunity presents itself, and they will show the Republic just how corrupt they have become. Only then will they surrender to the Separatists. Anakin took a long time to process all of this new information, but eventually he would agree to do this. And Dooku would continue training Anakin, mentally and physically, until Anakin was 19 years old now. And at this time, they came up with an idea to rally many systems to their cause. Anakin recently had a nightmare about his mother dying, so Dooku instructed Anakin to lead a battalion of droids into Tatooine. He was to free his mother, then free the rest of the slaves, starting a slave uprising of sorts. Anakin would go to Tatooine, Kessel, Zygeria, free the slaves, and many systems will rally to their cause, seeing that they are on the side of the people. And so Anakin would begin this mission, taking a battalion of super battle droids and commando droids to Tatooine, and finding his mother, killing the Tuskens while his mother was unconscious, and continuing to do this through Tatooine. Anakin was unable to hold back once the uprising really began, and he would end up killing Watto with a force choke, relishing the moment as slaves and droids worked together in the city. And on both Kessel and Zygeria, the same thing would happen. Anakin wasn't able to hold back against the slave owners. He didn't want to hold back. He'd spent so much time fighting training droids that he relished in fighting real enemies that he held strong hatred for. And once these three worlds all had a ton of momentum in their uprisings, Anakin would travel with Dooku to the Raxus system, where the two of them would commandeer a Republic HoloNet station. The two of them hacked into it, and were now speaking to the people of the Republic. All of this was fine by Palpatine, and Dooku would soon give a truly resounding speech, telling the people of the galaxy that the recent uprising was caused by them, and it was only an ounce of what the people of the galaxy can do together. Dooku would speak to the thousands of planets, telling them that the Republic has failed them. He thoroughly lambasted the continued corruption and shortcomings of the Republic, and because of this speech, along with the uprising, many outer and mid-rim systems suddenly jumped for the Separatist alliance, and war was being set into motion. The war would soon begin, and Anakin would play his role as a dark acolyte rather than a Sith, and he would do a lot of it next to Asajj Ventress. Dooku took on Ventress to help their cause, along with General Grievous. Anakin and Ventress would form a duo that no Jedi, aside from those on the Council, could match. Battle after battle, from planets like Ryloth to Kashyyyk to Geonosis, Anakin and Ventress were carrying out many victories for the Separatist alliance. Anakin would always have some hesitation killing clones, as they were almost like slaves to the Republic, innocents bred for war. But he did his duty, fighting for the Separatist alliance day after day, knowing what he was fighting for. He and Ventress would form a sort of sibling-like relationship, where they were always bickering and disagreeing, but when the time came to lock in for battle, no one worked better than the two of them together. Anakin would embrace his resentment for the Jedi Order in the lightsaber battles he would sometimes get into, but it wasn't always easy, as he would fight younger Jedi who had no role in the Council abandoning him. He would often dismember the Jedi and have them captured rather than killed, and for months the Separatists would have an advantage in the war thanks to Anakin and Ventress, and some of these captured Jedi would even choose to join the Separatists. But they had become too powerful, and Darth Sidious had enough of them. He did not need two assassins disrupting how he wanted this war to go, and he feared that Dooku was too close to Anakin. So Sidious decided to have the two of them dispatched alone to Felucia to take out a Republic spy. But upon landing on the planet at the coordinates given to them, Anakin and Ventress soon learned this was a trap. The ship they arrived on was hit by a rocket launcher, and from around a nearby hill emerged General Grievous, and on the other side, 10 Magna Guards and 10 commando droids. Anakin ignited his purple blade, while Ventress ignited her 2 red ones. Sidious decided they needed to die, and Dooku would just have to accept this. From one side, Grievous would move in with a coughing laugh, while the 20 droids moved in on the other side. Anakin assured Ventress that he could take down the droids quickly, then he would join her against Grievous. Ventress nodded, then ran at the droid general as Anakin ran in against the Magna Guards and the Commandos. And as Anakin ran into battle, he spun to cut through a few of the Magnas, then he reached out with the Force, lifting nearby plants into the air, slamming them down on the Commando droids. Anakin, though, became distracted as he heard a scream from Ventress. Grievous was getting the better of her, and because of this distraction, one of the Commando droids was able to jump into the air, leaping off of a plant, backflipping at Anakin, and managed to plunge a knife into Anakin's shoulder blade. But Anakin swung, cutting away the droid and taking out the knife. He used the pain now to help him fight, but a Magna Staff was plunged into Anakin's gut, and the electricity made him fall to the ground, dropping his saber. Within seconds, 5 staffs were electrocuting Anakin, and through this he managed to see Ventress lose a saber as Grievous kicked her in the face. Anakin closed his fist, angry, and the ground around him began to shake. He was giving in to the dark side more than ever before, and the 10 remaining droids were lifted into the air as Anakin sent a force pulse, crushing them all as he called his saber back to his hand. But he was too late. As Ventress was getting back up, Grievous was able to cut through her leg, then pulled a blaster from his belt, shooting her before cutting off her head. It rolled over to Anakin, and he felt completely numb. Grievous laughed, telling Anakin it was his turn, but Anakin force-pushed Grievous into a hill, then jumped into the air, slamming his saber into the ground as Grievous barely crawled away in time. Grievous was able to crawl at Anakin now, grabbing him with all 4 legs, trying to rip him apart limb by limb. But Anakin was able to use his mind, pulling a lightsaber from Grievous's belt and igniting it through his side. Grievous stumbled backwards as Anakin once more pulled his own saber to him, igniting it and plunging it through Grievous's heart, watching the life fade from his eyes. And then Anakin let out a huge scream as he cut through Grievous time and time again until there was nothing left. He fell to his knees and looked at Ventress's fallen body. He knew Palpatine did this. He must pay for this. And so as Anakin returned to Dooku, Dooku could see that Anakin was extremely angry and saddened over the death of Ventress. It was time they take down Sidious, and Dooku had a plan. The Separatists recently had a one-of-a-kind ship called the Malevolence built. It could fire an ion cannon and completely wipe out a ship's systems, including the shields. And Palpatine was about to depart Coruscant to give a speech on his home world of Naboo. If they can shut down his ship and kill Palpatine, then they can expose the corruption, use the Malevolence to force the Republic to surrender. Palpatine was informed by Dooku that Grievous, Ventress, and Anakin all died on Felucia, and he understands that these were necessary sacrifices to maintain their power. And so Palpatine would take off for Naboo, thinking that this was the truth. As Palpatine's Venator, along with 2 other Venators, emerged from hyperspace above Naboo, Palpatine was completing final preparations for his speech, when a Separatist fleet, led by the Malevolence, emerged from hyperspace. The Republic Venators engaged in battle, but it was too late. The Malevolence fired its ion cannon and rendered the 3 Republic Venators useless. Palpatine watched as the Venators on either side of his were blown up, and then the Separatist fleet launched hundreds of droid transports for his Venator. Dooku and Anakin knew they would have to kill Palpatine themselves to present evidence of his death to the Senate. Luckily for Palpatine, his Venator had a ton of clones aboard it, but it probably would not matter, and soon the Separatist droids, led by Anakin and Dooku, quickly landed and began pouring into the Republic Venator. Droids and clones engaged in a relatively even fight, but the strength of Anakin and Dooku turned the tide of the battle as they pushed through the ranks of the clones, eventually getting to the bridge as the droids overwhelmed the clones, and soon it was Anakin and Dooku finally facing Darth Sidious. He was looking out the window, not facing them, until he simply ignited a red blade, saying that they will pay for their treachery against him. Dooku said that he and Anakin will rebuild the galaxy as it should be, not led by corruption or by darkness, but in a way that will serve the people. Sidious said that he is no Sith, and Dooku ignited his blade with Anakin, saying his rule is at an end. So Dooku and Anakin would begin circling Sidious, and Dooku could feel Anakin's rage, but he could also feel that Anakin was channeling it into focus, rather than unbalanced anger. This was good, and they moved in on Sidious. Soon the clash of lightsabers would fill the room, as the 3 powerful users engaged in a strong duel with the dark side. Dooku was perhaps the best duelist in the galaxy. His attacks were elegant but deadly, while Anakin was channeling his inner turmoil into power, using his own rage at Sidious for Ventress and planets suffering because of him, as his strikes were fueled by the controlled darkness. Sidious began to laugh as he swept between the 2 of them, occasionally using bursts of lightning, which forced the 2 fighters to keep their distance. In unison, Dooku and Anakin soon moved in, gaining the advantage, but Sidious suddenly spun away to a doorway, opening it, revealing a handcuffed Padme Amidala. Sidious smiled as he now held a saber to her neck, saying he suspected Anakin could be alive. Anakin made eye contact with Padme for the first time in a decade, and suddenly, Anakin was the 10-year-old boy on Tatooine, mesmerized by Padme. He told Sidious to let her go, and Sidious said that he would. If Anakin kills Dooku and joins him, only then can Padme live. And as this was happening, Anakin noticed Padme was holding a small vibroblade. Interesting. She slightly nodded to Anakin, and so Anakin distracted Sidious, saying that he would do whatever it takes to keep Padme safe. Sidious smiled, but a second later, he was distracted as the blade was plunged into his thigh. He screamed in pain, swinging to kill Padme, but Anakin got in the way, blocking the strike, as once again, Dooku and Anakin battled Sidious. Dooku was quickly able to get in, cutting Sidious's lightsaber away, but Sidious blasted Force lightning, and this time, the lightning was met by Anakin's own lightning. Dooku joined in as well with his own. Dooku and Anakin poured their combined strength into their lightning, pushing it back at Palpatine, and it would quickly engulf the Sith Lord as he died in an explosion inside of the ship. When it was over, Anakin would make sure Padme was alright, and she saw now that she was on the wrong side. It was the Chancellor and the Republic that was in the wrong, and Dooku decided to let her in on their plans. They are going to attack Coruscant soon, but if she works with them to show the Senate the truth about Palpatine, then there does not need to be any more violence. The Republic can surrender, the Separatist Senate can step in, and Padme would agree. If the violence can be stopped, she was all for it. So Padme would return to Coruscant as Dooku and Anakin launched their final moves. Separatist fleets were sent out to important Republic planets, and once the Republic was very occupied, Dooku launched the real huge fleet to Coruscant, led by the Malevolence. Almost immediately upon arrival, the Malevolence launched its ion cannon to disable the Republic blockade, and Padme would connect Dooku to the Republic Senate and HoloNet as he began to speak to everyone. Dooku asked the Republic for an immediate surrender, as he has made a discovery that should change everything, and Dooku presented years of mounted evidence of Palpatine being in control of starting this war, along with video evidence of him fighting and threatening to kill Padme on the bridge recently. The entire Republic saw their leader was actively against them, and in the Senate, Padme would speak with passion, saying that they are on the wrong side. The Separatists were right, the Republic is failing, and then Dooku said that if the Senate surrenders, the droids will be immediately shut down, as he will step into the role of Chancellor, reform the Republic. The Senate had no choice. If they didn't surrender, then Dooku and the Separatists would pour into Coruscant, and a surrender would be forced upon them. So a vote was put into place, and the war would come to an end, as Dooku became the new leader of the new Republic. Among his first moves was to send away the Jedi. They served the Senate, and the Senate was sending them away, so the Jedi would exile themselves to Tython, separating themselves from the Senate, where they would be forced to confront their own ideologies. Within this new republic, each senator would undergo extensive background checks and interviews, along with new elections that were directly monitored by clone troopers to make sure that everyone got a fair vote, no corruption behind the scenes. Dooku empowered the people of this republic, and the people rallied behind him, as Anakin would step in as the leader of the clone military. The Jedi would go back to being just peacekeepers throughout the galaxy, though many Jedi left the Order, including Obi-Wan, who is now with Satine on Mandalore. The Jedi were able to defeat Maul, and as leader of the military, Anakin would often interact with Vice Chancellor Padme Amidala, leading to a relationship as he, Padme, and Dooku rebuilt their new republic in a way that Dooku had only dreamt of in the past. And folks, that is our video for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Before we talk about it, to enter the giveaway of the novelization that I talked about, it is called The Living Force, and it was just released. Go ahead and just comment down below, giveaway, followed by your favorite Jedi Council member, and if you win, I'll respond to you this Sunday. There will be an exclusive members giveaway as well, so if you want to be part of the member giveaway, just become a member. Link in the description. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching this one. I always say this after every Dooku video, but I enjoy writing the Dooku videos. Such a complex character that you can take down many different paths, light or dark, somewhere in the middle, and today I opted for somewhere in the middle. Him and Anakin, I think, if Dooku took on Anakin, trained him alone on Serenno, I think they would pull each other in different directions, but they would form a relationship that is good for both of them. I think it's similar to the Qui-Gon effect, so hope you guys enjoyed this. Wanted to do something with Ventress as well. Unfortunately, she did have to die, along with Grievous, so appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Maybe, Sidious would pursue Anakin more, but I decided to have the midichlorian count have Sidious be tricked by that, so he just thinks of Anakin kind of as, just another Jedi, another Force user that will be dealt with in time, and ultimately, he destroys Sidious. So let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.